So I'll call the meeting to order. First thing is approval of April 21st minutes. So motion to approve those
Will
minutes.
be approved as written.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's see, addition to the agenda, registrar of voters, letter, social service report, and quote on column repair. Are there any other additions?
I'd like to add paint care.
Thank
Paint.
Paint care, please.
Paint.
Okay, any other additions?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Let's see, communications. We've got an invitation from the Housatonic Service Bureau to a grand preview of the new home of the Housatonic Service Bureau, 246 Warren Turnpike, also known as Housatonic Valley Regional High School, 30th of May, which is a Saturday, 6 o'clock. RSVP, it's a catered event. RSVP by May 24th. So, if you want to come, just let us know by May 24th and we will RSVP, or you can write it down and RSVP yourselves.
Wow, that ought to be some pretty good food.
You know,
Yeah. Top 5 caterer.
are you from around here?
Salisbury.
Okay, I'm planning on going, so if anybody else wants to go, do you want to reply yourselves? Do you definitely know you can't go?
I'd have to check the schedule from
Right. Anyway, just call the office, we have plenty of time.
Darn nephew birthday parties.
Okay,
Not me, sorry.
all right, so
I want to see it too.
I'm sure they would be glad to see you
Yeah.
alternate times.
Yeah, sure.
Nick was very excited about it, so anyway, Richard, just check the schedule. Let us
Yeah, I
know.
gotta check the schedule. Those are, Saturday, late Saturdays are tough.
Saturday's a busy time. At least it's not Memorial Day weekend, it's the weekend after.
Yeah, well,
Slightly better.
slightly better, yeah.
Right, good. All right, other communication, we got a letter from Ian Ingersoll about the possibility of water treatment facility to serve West Cornwall. It's quite a lengthy letter, I forwarded it to you folks. Richard went to the meeting last week, I think it was, in West Cornwall. Any thoughts, reflections?
Well, I think a lot of good things.
You want to maybe just give us a brief report of the meeting, or?
Should I do that now, or should?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were a lot of good things, had a lot of good ideas thrown around, and there's some talk about doing some kind of consulting work to figure out what's possible, or what could possibly work. There may be some state money or federal money. I'm not quite sure the size of the hoop.
For the consultant or for construction?
I think both, but I wouldn't, I mean, the construction is so far down the line before you really can't put the cart before the horse. You'd have to just figure out what has to be done and how they could do it and what's feasible and what's possible. There was some discussion that there was possibly some state money for it. As I said, I'm not quite sure the size of the hoop that has to be jumped through to make it happen. But I think that's sort of the starting point where it is at this point. numbers thrown around, and many of them are large.
Yeah, most of them.
Right. So my thought is, it might be good just to contact the Tornado Health District and get a report on the various septic systems in West Cornwall to find out the scope of the problem, the issue, because there's the new house down there, and we assume that's got an up-to-date system, and then there's some houses that are older that probably don't, and I think it would probably be good just to get a map before we hire anybody. We do have a sanitary health district service that's pretty familiar with those systems, because when something fails, they're the ones that have to approve the repair, and a lot of these systems are on file in some fashion, so I think it would be helpful to everybody to figure out exactly what scope of area, where in the village is there a problem, at least now. I mean, granted, you could do more if there was a system there, but I think that would be a good first step, because if we are to hire somebody eventually, they'd want to know what are we really looking at, and at this point we don't know. We're looking at 3 houses, 30 houses, 5 businesses, whereas just to get them to accumulate the information on file, I think would help frame the issue somewhat.
Yeah, when we met with them, so was it last
A year ago almost.
fall, was it almost a year ago? It sounded like they had a lot of information. Tom Stansfield and Kathy, whatever, made it sound like they had some information that they could
Right,
give to us, so it would be great to actually get it.
right. So I think with your permission, I'll write Ian back saying this is the board's first thought, is to get the information collated, and of course that will take a bit, but just to get it mapped. What are we talking about? Are we talking about the whole village, or once you go across the brook, move down River Road, are there issues down there? Are there issues just on the main street? How far
So
down?
someone needs to, whether that be us or Ian or somebody, to take a census of the number of units or houses, I think, as you're
Well, I
saying.
think the health district is perfect, because that's their,
Or they already have it.
they have it, and
Yeah.
they're used to saying, well,
Sounded
this
like
one's.
they were like, we already know this area.
Well, I know, but they may know the area, but defining it by, these are all the units south of the brook, south of Mill Brook, right? South of the brook,
Right,
east of the river, and west of the mountains. I don't know, I'm not quite
Right.
sure where, west of what, but,
Yeah.
you know.
how
what are
far down River Road do you go? I
And
mean,
then how many are there? How many units are there?
Right.
And then if you cross the brook for an extra X amount of money, how many more units could you pick up from doing that? I mean, I don't know, just sort of some census of, there's 25 here, there's 25 here, there's
Would we just go by existing, or would we consider potential future
maybe a little
as
of both,
well?
maybe a little of both. How many exist? I would think that's a defined number,
Right,
and maybe potential would be,
estimate of potential,
yeah, some guesstimate of what
if there
potential.
was sewer treatment.
Or the potential for development, I mean, reasonable, not necessarily,
Right.
I don't know, I think maybe Torrington Area Health,
the scope of the project.
the
somewhat.
scope of the project.
Right.
I don't think we're not going all the way down to Trinity, and, even crossing the brook on Lower River Road, are those systems an issue? River Road,
Right.
how far up the hill are you thinking about?
We could go all the way to the school.
You could,
Yeah, the firehouse.
again, that's,
But we could, but we probably won't.
probably won't. Yes.
We'll start somewhere.
Okay, so anyway, that's,
But I think the important thing is, there is no system, nobody mentioned any system that was so dire that, today, there was a system today that was so failed that the people couldn't live in the house. I mean, that was not brought up
Right.
at the meeting when whatever it was last week.
I think that's an important thing. Are we fixing a problem, or are we giving expansion for future? I mean, or a little bit of both, but it's, it also has somewhat to do with how urgent the priorities is with other things that we've got in the hopper, so. But anyway, I think it's just a good place to start. Get your
Well, I think
baseline, get your baseline information, define your problem, and then,
It is important, though, that it's not a situation where there's raw sewage going into the river right now, because that would be a high priority. That may even be the highest priority if in fact that was the case.
right,
Um,
okay. See, public comments, any public comments?
I wanted to thank you on behalf of the cemetery. We got a load of road scrapings down there, so we'll be spreading those. And Jim had called me to tell me that that was going to be done, that you had approved it, and he said that he has to do some paperwork, I think, because with Freddie on the tree work
Right.
before it can be done, but that you had said they could proceed with that paperwork.
Right,
So
yeah, we
thank
hope to get the trees underway, it's just everybody's scrambling spring cleanup. We've got the sand there, now the next thing is take care of the trees, and we should be
And then
good.
we need to get it spread. And I wanted to ask if, wanted to urge the board to consider the development of a process for naming people to volunteer boards. Because I know we had that whole Megillah over the historian, but then we have this other opening that really impacts everybody in town. It's the Torrington Area Health Rep. And, you know, we didn't put it in the newspapers, we didn't put it in the Chronicle. I don't know. I'm sure you got a background statement, but we didn't see any presented at the meetings, we didn't see any recommendations. I just think for the sake of transparency and that everybody would feel treated equally, that when there is an opening, that the board have a process for how you appoint people. And that process should be written and available for people to know. So I would just urge the board to consider the development of that process and that written statement. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, first item is resolution, historic document preservation grant. So, let's see, this is a grant we get from the state, or the town clerk gets, to preserve town land records, and a selectman needs to make a resolution resolving that I'm authorized to execute the grant. We have it already budgeted, and this, I believe, rebounds some of the ancient land records.
So I'd like to make a motion that be it resolved that Gordon M. Ridgway, the first selectman, is empowered to execute and deliver in the name and on behalf of this municipality a contract with the Connecticut State Library for an historic documents preservation grant.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Next is Marie Baum Scholarship. We have three, four. Okay, we have four well-qualified candidates for the Marie Baum Scholarship. Let's see, who's,
This is the people that are interested in music, continuing
right,
education in music.
right. Okay, so here's four, there's three of us. We can start reading them. The background is Marie Baum gave $10,400 to her estate to the town of Cornwall for a scholarship fund. She was a long-time teacher at the school. And the balance in the account is now $12,257. We have, over a period of time, since 2000, accorded $10,000 a year to the scholarship. usually to a single person. Often there's one person applying. This year we have 4.
Last year we had 3.
Should we have 3? Okay.
So we're awarding $10,000.
No, it's $1,000. I just want to tell you the balance is $12,257. It reached a peak during when we invested it, and it's been going down with interest rates being flat. So the annual income is, last year was $343. So we're, at this point, awarding more than we're making in income. Back in the old days of higher interest rates, we were able to award more than we have to earn more than we award.
Or we have to take the thought of awarding only $500 instead of $1,000?
Yeah, that's the thought.
Is
That's
that
a
what
thought. Yeah,
instead of consuming the principal?
right.
It is a $500 reward, usually, for a Marie Bomb.
Was it 500?
I think you're thinking Hepburn is 1,000. Marie Bomb,
Oh, it's just 500?
yeah.
Okay, good.
Those are previous.
Those are
Those are the
previous reviews.
previous ones.
Okay, thank you, Joyce. There it is. $500 of the income.
Well, maybe we should consider reducing it to 400 then.
That's
$500.
$12,000 in there. I don't think $500 is going to kill the accountant anytime soon.
But we can only award the income, we can't award the principal.
So we can
We
only do $363.
No, we can, the amount over $10,000, which is 2,000 something,
Yeah.
is the earnings. So we can award
Oh, up to
$500 of that. So
$2,000.
so we can figure that out. If we can, the program is for $500 a year. So at this rate, and we're making $343 a year, so we are awarding slightly more than we're earning.
But we're 2,000 ahead of the
Right.
minimum.
So, and we can figure out in our spare time, if we award, how long would it take
To whittle it down.
to whittle that down, because we are really reducing it at a rate of about $150 a year. It would take us 10 years at that rate to go to $1,500 of earnings, so I think we'd be safe for the near future at...
For the near future, but I think we ought to, at some point, it's not out of the question if that's what it
Right.
takes.
apologize to our viewers, the rest of me will be a little bit more exciting in this particular section. We probably should have put this
To go into
towards the end.
commercial?
Pause,
We need
yeah,
a commercial
that's right.
commercial break at this point.
Actually, what you should have had is the applicants up here
Up here performing.
performing, yeah.
That's right, yeah.
Well, next time.
Well, this is most of several different.
That would really make it interesting.
We
Yeah.
could have charged and gotten more money and given back more money.
That's right.
Okay.
How do we do this?
What?
How do we do this?
Well, I think what we've done in the past, or what we can do now, my suggestion is we write on a paper ballot the name of one candidate and see where the balloting goes. We're probably all not gonna, well, we may all agree on one person, but then we can have successive ballots until we decide.
Should we maybe
We can
Uh,
vote,
1 and 2, and then maybe sum up
yeah,
1, 2, and 3? I don't know. You know, sort of have the total number of, at least
you
number
can do
of
the
votes.
total amount of votes and vote once. That's fine.
Because if we,
I mean, there's no perfect way to do it. You
no,
can vote,
I'm not,
you
yeah.
can vote once and then you can see who the two top people are, and then you can run off and vote for those two people. Or you could give people, you know, three, yeah. Four points to your first place?
Yeah, I'm just
Three,
thinking if we
two,
just,
one.
if we sort of vote for a couple of people, then it'll probably be decided in the first round, the first ballot,
Right.
because there'll be some,
Right.
um,
And then if there's a tie, we'll just do a vote.
it's
Between
conceivable
the
that we
two.
have, on the first thing, that we can come up with 3 different choices, and then we're sort of nowhere.
Right. Do a point thing, and if it's a tie, we'll just vote again between the top two tie people, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You may,
just, I don't wanna make it more complicated.
I mean, hopefully it won't be a tie, but we've seen it happen before.
Yes, with more people voting.
What do you think, Heidi?
I was reading.
Okay,
What did you say we were gonna do? I know last year we put the kids' names down, first, second, third,
right, and we gave them,
and then Joyce tallied.
right, so we gave them 4 points for first, 3 points for second.
Right.
Like that, so whoever got the highest amount of points
Yes.
was the winner,
Yeah.
okay? So we'll do that, and if there's a tie, we can have a runoff or something. We'll do that, so let's, and take your time if you need to refer back to all these who's who.
Um, So just.
And
to
just
be
by
clear-
their last name.
So,
So
4,
4 is your top choice.
right, that's what I wanna make sure.
3 is your second choice. again, it's impressive how much, how well qualified and these candidates are for our small town.
Yes,
They do a lot of music.
they do. Yeah, good music program, that's for sure.
Okay.
The town,
How did someone get it 2 years in a row when they applied?
Yeah.
More than one time.
Yeah, nobody else applied.
Oh, these people get suspended too.
I think some of these years we've had very, very, very musically talented people. And in some years maybe music is a side.
Right, like a side thing?
A side activity.
Yeah.
So Joyce is now doing the same thing in here as they're doing in the other room.
Yeah, right.
Should we send it through the computer? See what comes up?
Counting the votes, and they're just closed right after 8 o'clock.
So
Okay.
McDavid has 11, O'Kane has 6, Martin has 6, Calusa has 3, and Fiona has 4.
I think Fiona and O'Kane are the same
Yeah,
person.
yeah, the same person.
So that's actually a
Oh, so
10.
that's actually 10.
Right.
Fiona, okay, yeah.
So Lydia McDavid is the
6, 10.
top
Yeah.
by a whisker.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll write them back and thank them all for applying. Saves a close contest. Wish them well.
So who got it?
Lydia McDavid.
Just going here.
Nice ball.
She got it.
Nice ball.
Okay.
Okay, so there's 2 requests for tax refunds. One for $127.37. Bradford Hedden, duplicate payment of personal property tax, and $26.96. Allison Foss, overpayment of real estate tax. So those are both approved by the tax collector, and I'd make a motion that we grant those 2 tax refunds.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Let's see, here's some rebond stuff. P&Z cell tower request. I think I sent you some minutes from P&Z at their March meeting. They there's a motion here. Mrs. Tamel, second by Mrs. Potter, recommend the Board of Selectmen to consider establishing a telecommunication advisory commission. So there's reference there. And then I went to their April 14th meeting and asked for clarification of their motion for the minutes, and they gave further discussion at their meeting. So those are the 2 official things.
So, Should I read that?
It's right,
Yeah, no, should I read that out loud?
sure.
What you were saying was that the
This is
April
testimony.
meeting, this is the minutes from the April meeting,
Okay,
and under other business, First Selectman Ridgway asked for clarification of the motion made by the commission at its March meeting to ask the Board of Selectmen if they want to establish a telecommunications advisory committee. You were asking for clarification on that. In response, it was commission consensus was that the motion was not a recommendation or a directive, but rather an action that the Board of Selectmen could consider.
This was after our last meeting, because we had questions at our last meeting about,
no, I think before our last meeting. 'Cause we met sometime like,
minutes were April 21st.
I don't think we have the minutes in our hand. I think
this
that was the
was-
issue. The issue was,
Before, oh, because we didn't know specifically what
we
they were
didn't have the
asking
exact wording,
right.
I think was the issue.
So the purpose of the commission would be to ascertain, evaluate the needs of the public and pursue information regarding the economic and environmental impacts of currently available systems. And then their clarification the following month. They are continuing to work on revising the town plan. So that's ongoing. Let's see, so I don't know, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts would be, at the moment, we have a set of, not regulations, they're
Guidelines.
guidelines. There are a set of guidelines in place in the town plan, or in the town,
Regs.
they're guidelines and the regulations. And then at the last meeting, or a couple of meetings ago, or at some point in the last several months, a revised set of, I'm just reviewing them, that's what I'm asking, a revised set of
Revised guidelines.
revised guidelines were brought forth, and they came from Tom McGowan,
Yes.
is that right? They came from
Yeah,
Tom McGowan,
Tom
who
McGowan.
who gleaned them from a number of
Or in conjunction with the commission members.
commission members and maybe other towns and other things, and so,
Did those get approved in the end?
No.
No,
No, I don't think so.
and I would think the first thing to do for the, or, I don't know about the first thing, I would think it would be prudent to update the guidelines with what they have so far before you go spend another 3 months, 6 months, 9 months trying to figure out where we may want to go. Only to put, because the last set of guidelines were created 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
right.
But isn't that the reason why they wanted this committee? To do additional research and then help guide the commission to updated guidelines?
Well, I think there's a couple of parts. One, the town has zoning regulations, and the town has a town plan. The town cannot regulate telecommunication towers. We can update our town plan, and that's what, in addition to other testimony, the siting council will listen to. If we say we don't want any towers that are illegal in Cornwall, they won't listen to that.
Right.
So, so they are updating, they are right now updating their town plan, which also will require a town hearing when that happens. Because really the only thing you can talk about, you can't talk about health and safety, you can talk about location. So the P&Z are doing that, and that will be part of the process, is to get public input. I've heard from the fire department, state police, and residents in general that they want improved coverage in town. There's some people that may not want any more towers at all, but think from a public safety standpoint, there does need to be improved coverage in town. I think their location issues are being addressed by P&Z. There's also a council of government study, there's request from the siting council propagation study to see what the coverages are for towers. I think there's a limited amount of providers out there. We've seen how long it's been to even an approved tower to get that constructed. This one on Popple Swamp, I believe, is supposed to start construction this spring. The one at the town gravel bank is on hold. There's other places like in the middle of Washington where there's a huge dead spot in Washington Depot. They even have a pole there. They're having trouble getting AT&T to even put a transmitter on the pole with a lot of people there. So
The poll's already up?
the pole's already up, apparently. So
That's good.
I'm a little hesitant to appoint a committee to go over things that I really don't see the point if there's public input at these meetings. I think there needs to be an improved coverage without locating them in village centers. We've had good success on keeping a tower away from, it was first proposed at the Covered Bridge. There's also one proposed in the middle of Cornwall Bridge. And the companies have been pretty clear that they don't want a big fight with the towns.
Gordon, could I just give you one piece of information?
Yeah, but let me finish my thoughts.
Certainly.
As disjointed as they already are. So anyway, it's just my thought is it's hard for me to appoint another committee to hash out what's in some ways already obvious. I think there's a general consensus about improving coverage. They don't want to be in heavily populated areas. They don't want to destroy scenic vistas. And I just wouldn't want people to spend a lot of time sort of stating the obvious, or, you know, you have some people, there's a huge spectrum of opinion out there, and I think at some point we have to use our judgment as a town's leaders to sort of say if there's actually one being proposed, which right now there's no active candidates, is this in a good site? Will this help meet the overall objectives of the town by improving coverage without being a detriment to the scenic values or being close to where people live? So,
Right, but they already spent months and months on getting this new amendment written up, went to the public hearing, in the end, tabled it and took no action. Then unanimously approved a motion to recommend to us to consider establishing the advisory commission to ascertain and evaluate the needs of the public and pursue information regarding the economic and environmental impacts of the available systems. It was noted that the subject matter discussed was bigger than the role of the Planning and Zoning Commission, but the establishment of a committee would not preclude the commission from considering regulations on its own. So they're already saying that this is more than they feel like they can handle or have the expertise on, and they need some folks to sort of dig deeper into it to determine what amendments to the guidelines would make sense.
Then they say here, that's the March meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Then in April, upon clarification, they said it was
Right, not a recommendation.
just an idea.
Well,
I think what they were saying is sort of an idea.
So even if you did say that, it was to send this idea that the selectmen consider establishing. I mean, it doesn't change the rest of the motion.
it doesn't, but I
That they're
just,
looking for more help.
To
And
me,
the
in
committee
to me,
would
in the
be
end,
some volunteer folks with some expertise as opposed to considering to pay more consultants, more planners, more, you know.
But in the end, the town's ability to regulate with authority is zero. They have no authority. The siting council has the authority.
Right.
All we can do is recommend or have in the town plan what we prefer. And I think a lot of that, again, is somewhat obvious, not on ridge lines, not next to the covered bridge, not on top of highly populated areas. So I'm not really, not in sensitive areas. So I think that a lot of that has been set forth, and that's what they're trying to do. So I'm not quite sure why the zoning commission doesn't attempt to move forward with their updated aspect of the town plan that discusses this area.
Because they're feeling like they need more research from people that this commission does not have the time for, does not have the ability to do. I mean, we already have the guidelines right now say not on ridge lines, not in sensitive areas, et cetera. But they obviously were feeling like that wasn't enough, so they were looking to amend them. And whatever the amendment ended up being, they weren't comfortable with in the end, by the time the public hearing was concluded. So now they're saying, we obviously need more information, more expertise to be added to the conversation that this group of people doesn't have. They already spent months on it. They're asking us to appoint some folks to a committee that could research it, that would have the interest, the expertise, the time to research the information, and then present it back to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they could take it or not. They're still saying that it would not preclude them from considering their own regulations, which, I mean, they can't have regulations anyway, but it would be considering their own guidelines.
Okay, Joanne, you wanted to, have you finished, Annie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at that meeting, and they really are not proposing cell towers at all. What they're proposing are, and I was just talking with Karen, and we can't remember the exact name, RAS or something, they're antennas that
Repeaters,
go,
yeah.
repeaters, thank you.
Sorry.
Repeaters that would go on every third or fourth 20-foot antennas that would go on all the tops of all the telephone poles as you go down the highway. So what they're proposing has nothing to do with cell towers. They're proposing that as an alternative. And there was discussion back and forth, and Karen, you'll correct me if I misrepresent something, McGowan finally said that this was not his area of expertise. He really didn't know, that there were a lot of issues that, he knew about, but that wasn't one of them. And so the board stepped back and said, well, maybe we thought these repeaters sounded like a great idea, because then we wouldn't have to have cell towers. And apparently, as Gordon said, you don't have control over it. But if you put forward the idea that you'd rather have repeaters than cell towers, they take that as a good idea. But the question was, would repeaters really be a better idea and things?
I would just
Okay.
ask you to clarify to go to the April minutes.
Yep.
I think you have a copy, and follow the discussion of the commission to abandon all amendments to the zoning regulations and to amend the town plan. At the March meeting, they were tabled, they are removed. There's not going to be any more discussion of the proposed amendments to the zoning regs or to the town plan that were heard in public hearing in March. In April, they're moving forward, they're asking Tom McGowan, they've already contacted Tom McGowan to address changes to the town plan, for which they feel that is where the Planning and Zoning Commission's authority lies in terms of location. End of conversation. They are not going to revisit the issue.
Are they taking the repeater?
Where does it say that, Benita?
The Commission addressed recent consideration of regulation and plan amendments as related to telecommunication facilities. It was suggested the DAS section of any future proposed regulation or plan amendments be removed, and that the strict focus of amendments be to be location only as addressed in the town plan. The matter was to be referred back to Mr. McGowan for consideration. That's the bottom line. They will be moving forward on amendments to the town plan for location.
So the repeater,
Location of cell towers or repeaters?
Location of cell towers.
so the DAS is another name for the repeaters.
Yes.
And the DAS sounds like they just got thrown out of the discussion. So it's not, so right now they're back to talking about cell towers, the
And
repeater
then-
stuff, which in my conversations with the AT&T and Verizon, they just don't use those in this type of setting anyway. Those are more for urban, suburban areas where they get too much opposition, and it's not practical to put a cell tower up in the middle of a major city. So those are where they use those. Out here where you've got huge distances, the cell tower is the way they do it. So it sounds like the repeater is not gonna be part of this.
Yeah, and the commission is
Thank you.
choosing not to move forward on that because of.
So they are asking for a committee or they're not?
They are you can think about it. It's not, they're not recommending, they're not, saying you must, it's just if you wanna talk about it, and if it's something that you feel is a good idea, that's fine, if it isn't, that's fine too. They're not going to be asking for information for plan amendments, because that is out of their jurisdiction. And it's very interesting that, at the public hearing, there were remarks made as to the regulations that are on the books right now, and the Blake Levitt regulations that are in another town. Because Tom McGowan was very clear in saying, her regulations are great, the only problem is nobody has the authority to enforce them. And so to spend money on regulations for which you have no jurisdiction is not in the best interest of the commission. When cell tower regulations were within the jurisdiction of the commission, and speaking from a resident of a town in which Tom McGowan's regulations in New Hartford stopped cell towers when the commission had the jurisdiction. So that's why they're not pursuing regulatory amendments, because the commission has no jurisdiction.
Well, then it just seems like it's
Bigger
some
people
conversation.
that
We
need
can
to go
move
on
on.
the button.
Right, so I think just to have some closure on this, we'll keep this, we'll monitor what's going on, but at this point, I don't feel inclined to grant this, as it doesn't seem clear what the benefit is of it this time, so we'll consider the question, but I don't think at this point I'm personally not in favor of starting a committee without knowing that they're really gonna, their time's gonna be well spent.
Right.
Any other thoughts? Okay. Next is senior van with Goshen, just to fill up your computers. I did send you, I think we sent you the copy of the grant application. First Selectman Valentine has put together. We've been talking back and forth about some of the numbers and things. Because he initiated this idea, I thought it was fair or whatever. You do get some credits for housing the van, get in-kind credits and this kind of stuff, but I felt it's out of his, he's been the primary mover of this, so I think it's fair if they maintain a Goshen. We do use the same mechanic for our highway department's JW there, so it's close to there. And he is going to submit the application. I believe it's due the end of this week, and then we're working on some intertown agreement about the van and lay out some of the things as far as insurance, maintenance, housing of it, and basically the operation of it. how we go through it, use the dispatch center. So we'll nail down as much as we can at this point and have the right to, amend the relationship as it develops by the mutual consent of both boards.
I think we shouldn't spend a lot of time until we see if we get the grant.
Right, well, but I mean, I think we have to we'll do some legwork, but we're not spending major attorney's fees or anything
I
else.
wouldn't call the attorney or anything yet until we see if you get this grant, otherwise it's costing you out the gate $25,000 just to buy that vehicle. So I think we're gonna have
Right,
to
well, our involvement is predicated on getting the grant. So, whatever, he's using his attorney, he wants to get some information, that's all
Okay.
fine. He's all ready to go, so I think it's good, got a good positive reaction from the Board of Finance. And, said we'll take it one step at a time. So we're off and applied. Anything else about the,
When do we
Go
hear
ahead.
about the,
6 months? I think, 3 months? 3 months. I think it's 6 months before we actually would take it, maybe 3 months to, couple months to get it and 4 months order, I think. But he felt that it would be next spring before it would actually be here,
for being
ready in place.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else about the senior van? Town meeting's coming up on May 15th. We did get a letter from Pearlie clarifying issue with Bill Colby about the impact of the sale on future use of his property. Seems like we're in agreement that it wouldn't materially affect that. And Pearlie's work on developing the deed, and maps are on file at the clerk's office. So we're set for the town meeting. Cream Mill Lake study, I've been sending you some things from Northeast Aquatic Research. There's a proposal the selectmen did over a year ago, appointing a study committee to study the Cream Mill Lake. Was a presentation by George Knocklin, who is affiliated with the University of Connecticut and comes as highly recommended to some of these studies lakes. What they're proposing to do is two things. One, buy approximately $2,500 equipment, which Dr. Knocklin will help set up, and that would be used by volunteers to study the chemistry of the lake over the summer. Said it changes from month to month. Look at nutrient cycles, oxygen, phosphorus, all those good stuff. So then he would help analyze that. So that's $2,500, and then there's another $2,500 proposed to do a full lake aquatic plant survey. And then there would be a review meeting presentation. He would do a summary of all these findings in the winter of 2015 and 16. Find out the extent of dissolved oxygen in the deepest water. I think this is important because the town does have the beaches, town beaches there, issues of invasive species, algae, turbidity, nutrients in the lake have been a long time issue. And here's somebody that sort of frames how to learn more about it. Bottom line is that we are lucky in a lot of ways. There are several beaches there enjoyed by many people in Cornwall. And And we're lucky that the lake is as healthy as it is. A lot of towns are having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to maintain or eradicate lake water problems, plant growth, nutrients, all
So
that
the
stuff.
summation of what you're saying here is that there's two proposals,
Right.
both approximately $2,500.
Correct.
One is chemistry and one is biology. So one is
Okay.
plants,
Yeah.
one's the
Wants
plants.
to buy $2,500 worth of testing equipment, which, this hasn't,
Well,
everything
then-
hasn't gotten entirely
Will then measure
figured out.
the,
This would measure the nutrient levels in the lake. So that a bunch of data would get collected, because there is this nutrient cycle that happens
Sure.
over the year.
And then the second study is to
If
study.
this guy would go out in his boat and start saying, that's that, that's that, that's that, this is where it is to get a baseline, because they have some studies and things are moving around and not seeing some of the weeds you'd expect to see, which is interesting. So,
So we're gonna try and find them.
hopefully he'll scrub his boat and not bring any of them in, but,
And
So
the
anyway.
beaver,
yeah,
the beaver's a big problem right now.
Peter's bringing in, yeah.
He's blocked up, he blocks up the other end of it, and I have to go over and clear it out, sometimes.
Yep, so,
So these are the
so
two
anyway,
studies
these
that
are
they're
things
talking about,
here,
right?
we do have, it's obvious, again, like septic in West Cornwall, this isn't something that happened yesterday, but it's been ongoing, but we did appoint a task group to study this. The chair, Nancy Berry, is coming up in May. It does make some sense in my mind to buy the equipment. There may also be the ability for people to donate to the cause and offset some of these charges. Haven't gotten all that information in yet. But it also makes sense to get some of this up and running. If we want to do it, it'd be good to get it going.
Right now.
We have to work in May to get stuff available in June, because the lakes can be very different in July than it is in May.
Well, if we bought the equipment, $2,500,
Yeah,
the other funds that they were able to get from the lake association or just property owners would go toward the guided study, I assume.
right.
Yeah,
We could work
$2,500,
with that, because I think his work will be done over the summer, and we're at sort of the end of our budget season, and we have a pretty healthy contingency fund, so we could buy the equipment as our share, hopefully raise some private funds to do the other part of it. Again, saying the town would backstop this concept, because it said it's better to learn ahead of time than after there's a bigger problem. And then redouble our efforts before, July 1st to get other contributions in play.
So what do we have to do to authorize the money?
Well, I think what we do is,
Or did we authorize?
Is it gonna come from a certain account? Or
well, I
can
think
we
what we
say
could
the
do
town
is we could make a motion tonight to do a budget transfer from contingency into the Hammond Beach account. We can say this is equipment for the beach, even though that's a bit of a stretch, but anyway, to my mind, it's one of the reasons we're doing it. And that gives us a budget line to work out of, and then we get the equipment on order, and then we work about getting the other funds raised.
I would move that.
Second,
Second that.
in a discussion, what we'll do is, why it's important to get this done tonight too, is that the Board of Finance is meeting again on the 13th of May, and then to meet again after the town meeting, and not having another meeting until the end of June, a regular meeting. They could have an emergency meeting, but it'd be nice just to get this out there for their May meeting. So Barbara will do a budget transfer, we'll impose on you guys to come back and sign off on that sometime before the 13th. And I think we would be official and be able to, I think it also would help jumpstart the campaign and, again, address another whole issue out there facing the town.
Well, we want to get the equipment, we
Right.
want to get May in June
Right.
in as part of the cycle of this year.
Get Richard out there testing, get the test tubes, come on,
Yes,
let's go.
sir.
That's the
No
way
problem.
to see the beaver.
My boat's ready.
Okay, be good. I think it'd be a good science project for some high school kids. It'd be neat to out there and take some samples, so,
For college kids that are home over the summer.
yeah, put it on their credential list,
That's right.
okay?
So, what is?
So-
what is
So the motion is to appropriate, to transfer $2,500 out of contingency to the Hammond Beach equipment line to buy equipment that would be used in, according to the registrar, to be used to monitor
Chemistry of the lake, you said.
the chemistry of the lake,
And they're aquatic plant life,
a
right?
dissolved oxygen meter.
And the aquatic life too, is that part of it?
Well, that's
Yeah,
for the
that's-
You could probably get it
second,
right off his
that's
quote.
the second,
That's the second one.
So that's not part of it?
Yeah, these are meters, yeah. This is the meters, this is also a small fee for Dr. Lachlan to come out and calibrate and instruct people on how to mark the lines and set the meters up. So altogether, the total is about $2,500. But the equipment is very durable and lasts a long time. Okay?
So it's Heidi's motion, so is it okay to transfer $2,500 out of contingency to Hammond Beach equipment line to buy equipment that would be used to monitor the chemistry of Cornwall Lake? Sounds good.
Any more discussion? We get a second on that?
Richard did.
Richard? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Next, we have a report from the registrar of voters that they're having some computer issues with their old equipment. The computer is almost 9 years old, and it's not the oldest in town. Anyway,
That's even
but
sadder.
the hardware is older, and Okey-dokey feels we should replace it, and he has an estimate here of $900 for the computer, and the whole system will cost about $1,200 to set up, and luckily they have that in their supply budget, so it just, when we get the bill, that's what's going on with the registrar of voters budget.
So I researched what he proposed, and it is a good system. The only thing I wondered is if they would want a laptop as opposed to a desktop.
Okay. Well, we can summon them in here.
Any thoughts? Well, I didn't know how much portability they need between each other and offices and class.
Yeah, summon them in here.
Yeah.
Right. I think Allison won the vote around. Yeah, I mean, this is mostly for their office up there, but that's a good one.
Right, but they could,
Right.
even if it was mostly just situated there in their office, but
Right.
if someone needed to take it, I don't know if it would be helpful for them to have it here.
Hello, registrars. How's the vote?
It passed 66 to 23,
Okay. Okay.
so 91 people
All right.
voted.
Not a record, but
891 did not.
all right. Anyway, that's not what. Anyway, that's good to hear people did come out. But
Yes.
Heidi had a question on your proposal, whether you wanted, whether a laptop would be preferable to a desktop for the computer.
At this point, we're going to stick with a desktop. In the future, they may have us do paperwork with like an iPad or stuff, and they don't know what the software is going to be. So until they tell us, I don't think we need a laptop.
You
There
think that-
may be-
you think that they would give you software that would only work on a Mac? And that they wouldn't also have a version that would be Windows based?
I don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
All they said was that they may create their own device kind of thing.
You don't ever need to do work remotely, where
No.
you would take a
No.
laptop with you and like to come here and do stuff?
Mm-mm. We could, but
Well, yeah, but we have.
we're so close, it doesn't
It's
make
just not
sense.
necessary? Okay.
Right, we go up and down the stairs.
And that
It's a good workout.
computer,
is
How many
attached
steps?
to
How
the
many
state
steps?
directly, so moving around probably wouldn't be.
The state it has their own server with
Right.
our information,
Right.
and they didn't want it remotely. That's why they're coming up with trying to figure out how they could do like an iPad, something with the security,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Okay.
So they would prefer you didn't have it on a public network anyway.
We cannot have it on a public network.
Okay.
Okay, so you're happy with your proposal for $1,100, which Barbara says you have in your office supplies?
Yes,
So we're just saying if you prefer a laptop, we would be willing
well,
to
we can
investigate
buy
that.
both if you'd like.
And we didn't say both, we
Do
said
you have
get
extra
more.
money in the line item?
Not that much. Anyway, thank you for,
Thank you.
Oh,
Your
that's good,
comments.
thank you.
you're welcome, thank you. All
Do
right,
we need
so
to make
anyway,
a motion?
we don't need to make a motion because it's already in there. This is more an informational item than requires any action from us. Let's see, our next thing is social service report. We got the first quarter 2015, which has been busy for the social service department. Thank you, Karen.
You're very welcome, by when your wetlands application, the town wetlands application was approved.
Okay, thank you. At the bottom of the, anyway, she's had a busy year with various social needs in the town. There's a note in the bottom because of the workload, she'd logged more hours than had been budgeted. And in order to keep the office open and things at full staff, she requested another 75 hours of time for the year. I do know that I worked with her one weekend, a couple days on a pretty serious case, so it has been beyond what we anticipated, and this happens since I don't like severe snowstorms. My thought at this point would be to, again, transfer this out of the contingency. It's a different type of emergency, but that is an emergency fund, and with the understanding that this is a bad year, and hopefully next year it won't be a routine thing, or if it is, we can go through the log, the caseload for the budget season, but I do know she did pretty heavy lifting in March, so any other thoughts on that? So
We can't shut her office down for the month of June, so we need to do something.
Well, we
And
could.
she did,
Yeah.
well, that would be
it would be,
disastrous.
would not be a
But she did ask last year for additional hours and funding, and we gave her half of it, 50%. And then she did not ask for the second, the 50% to be put into this year's budget, so I think we need to be sure her office is open and that she has the hours that she thinks she's gonna need, which are approximately 75 hours a month.
We're basing this additional funding on a specific case or two as part of the primary reason for the excess hourage.
Yeah,
Right.
well, that's what ate up her hours in
Right.
January, February, March.
Well, I'm saying a
So she
specific,
can't-
a
can't-
specific,
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
a specific case or two, which certainly does happen, but isn't necessarily what would happen every year.
Right.
Having,
Right.
a specific issue, I mean, I shouldn't say that, there's always issues, it depends on the size of it,
Right,
I guess is the,
right. But she's been in this position for a long time, so she has some idea of, what it takes each month to get the job done.
Right, but I don't, yeah.
so what we're,
So I make a motion that we would transfer from contingency $1,850 to the social service personnel line.
Is that 75 hours?
To ensure that the social service office is fully staffed for the remainder of the year. Is there a second?
Yes, okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. So, she wasn't willing to come down to discuss this tonight, but I thought we could, I think the report is explicit enough to state the case and what's going on. Let's see. I did get a quote from Tom Wolf today at noon about doing the columns. I think I gave you one there under your pile. It's $852,000 for strapping and gluing the columns back together. Is interesting in the notes. The columns have closed up considerably since the winter. This would also put in drainage vents, called bottoms with screens, so that it hopefully will reduce the problem in the future. Along with Ralph shoveling out the gutters. Major cost of this is the strapping. He doesn't have the straps, so we would buy them if we have them available if it happened again, or we could use them at the highway department.
Well, he has it as part of his bid, so
Right.
he's buying them or we're buying them?
He's buying them, we get them at the end of the job.
Oh, okay.
Because he just doesn't have the right heavy duty strapping to squeeze them all together. So,
Some pretty good sized bands and stuff.
yeah, number 4, whatever, number 4.
Yeah.
All right, so I make a motion that we accept this and Tom, all right, I make a motion we accept Tom's quote of $852,000 for
$852,000?
No.
No,
800.
850.
Oh,
$852,000
sorry.
just to fix them.
850 -2 PO $1,000.
You should see what new ones cost. Anyway, I'll rephrase my
Get
motion.
Joanne back up.
I'll make a motion that we accept Tom Wolf's quote to fix the 2 columns on the front steps of the town hall for $850 to $1,000. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Let's see, next we have, I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4, paint care.
Yeah. So I've had a couple people ask me about recycling of paint.
Yeah,
And there's some company that provides the bin or
Yep.
the storage facility to put it in. And so I asked Steve about it,
yeah,
and he said that there's a whole binder about
Yeah.
how to make this happen
yeah,
and to ask you about it. So I'm asking you about
yeah,
it.
we've had a proposal. This has been an issue for a while about what do you do with paint. And I hadn't brought it up because I was wondering whether some of the paint stores now are offering that as a service, but we certainly can put it on as an agenda item and show you the binder to look at. I think Salisbury and Sharon do it. So the question is it something we wanted to take on, or should we rely on, to find out from Northwest whether they are part of that program?
Northwest is
They
gonna
are.
take it back. I know that Salisbury does, and maybe Sharon does.
The-
Maybe
well,
in
the
conjunction at the transfer
Their
station.
transfer station does, but I
But
wonder-
folks were saying, oh, we're
Right.
getting on in years, it's hard enough getting it in the car, now I have to take it all the way to Salisbury, can we just bring it to
Right.
Cornwall?
Yeah, no,
It'll be so
something-
much easier.
We
Well,
can.
you can't take it to Salisbury unless you're a Salisbury resident, can you? Salisbury should.
No, yeah, you can, because you pay the extra fee. When you buy paint,
Well,
they charge you that
yeah.
extra fee.
So you can bring it to
You
any
can
other
bring
towns?
it to any recycling station around, yeah, so there might be, you know, I'm sure there are others around the state, but they
Home
must be the
Depot and
closest.
Lowe's. Do
Home
they-
Depot and
do
Lowe's,
they
I don't
charge?
know. Oh, everybody charges, yeah.
So
It's a
there are the
state
places
thing.
in Torrington.
Yeah.
So if we started to do this, then any other town's residents could bring their paint
Yeah,
to us?
anyone that's bought the paint and paid the fee. Yeah. That's why I sort of need to see what
Right. See the deal.
exactly what is it in this binder.
And then what happens with, if paint that continues to come in is,
So latex,
oil,
is it only latex? Yeah.
well, it may be, the rule may be only latex, but people don't, I mean, you have old cans and you start
Oh, right,
bringing
you
back
just
old
dump it
cans.
all. I mean, I don't know if you just bring the can and drop it, or do you dump it in like we do the oil, or?
And we dry
No,
the
no, you
can.
don't drop it, you can't, I wouldn't imagine it.
No, you you empty it out, and then probably somebody's gonna dry the cans. And then you throw the cans into the garbage, the way they do at the hazardous waste day. So anyway, I'd be glad to distribute the binder, we can all look at it before next meeting and
Sure,
see what happens. Okay,
I'll take it.
all right. Let's see, any other public comments?
I would just like to say I'm glad to see the board supporting her social services. You promised her last year if she documented her hours, you would support her, and I think that's great. I really like that. The historic preservation grant, how much was that for?
I think it's 7,000. That's just a guess.
Okay. That's
Yeah, it
good.
doesn't say in the resolution.
I think,
Well, it's saying this, we approved her to apply for it.
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's 5 to
We
7.
resolve it, this will enable me to apply for the grant.
Oh, okay.
It's $5,000 or $7,000. It's in that range.
Something they do every year.
I'm also
Yeah.
very glad to see the board did not appoint a telecommunications committee. However, when the first selectman knows that the DAS repeaters were not something that were good for this community or this area, I'm really surprised. I think that the board ought to talk to the P&Z Commission, because they had to spend a considerable amount of money having Tom McGowan draw up all those plans. And then, he said he really didn't know about it. He was copying stuff from other people, but we were paying for that. And then it went nowhere. So I think, that they need to be better informed. And I think the request came out of their lack of information. But I think they should be more careful. I don't understand also why a consultant is at every single planning and zoning meeting. I mean, I know they have a budget and I'm sure they have to stay within it, but it just seems inappropriate that there is a consultant at every meeting. And I think the board ought to just look into that. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comments?
I just want to ask, when Karen left, she mentioned something about the wetlands application.
Yes, that would be for the Matsadara program.
Okay, and what did she
So-
say?
Said it was approved by the wetlands.
So what does that mean?
That means,
Application was approved. So the
right, that means
application
they
was.
approved us putting in the swale as I
So we went
proposed
with
by.
that
What?
one, we went with that one particular plan,
Right, it's like the rock, riprap swale,
right, okay.
which the town forces would install in the dry weather, which is getting there.
Now,
So,
Okay.
anyway, we'll
Very dry now.
put that into the program. Okay. All right, so next is bill payment.
Are there other bills or is this?
yeah, they're right.